This man is about to drink poison, and in a few minutes he'll be dead. And look at his hand. He isn't holding the cup yet. He isn't even looking at it. He is still talking. This is a painting, The Death of Socrates, painted by Jacques-Louis David in 1787. And if you've ever read anything about Stoicism, you've probably come across this scene, because this is the picture the Stoics keep pointing at, which is kind of strange, because Socrates was not a Stoic. He couldn't be. Stoicism didn't exist yet. It starts about 100 years after he dies at 300 BC. And still, when you read the stories, Socrates is everywhere. He's the guy they keep coming back to, and you can see exactly why in this painting. Because the way he's dying is basically their whole philosophy, but 100 years early. Picture this. Athens. In 399 BC, the city has just come out of a long war at last. The government has been overthrown and put back together, and everyone's nervous. And in the middle of all that chaos, you have Socrates, who has spent his entire life walking around the city asking people questions. Not in a nice way either. He'd ask a general what courage is. He asked a judge what justice is. And then he kept asking until it was obvious, in public, in front of everyone, that they didn't really know what they were talking about. He did this for decades, and he was very famous for it. So he gets taken to court for two charges. First, that he doesn't believe in the gods of the city, and that he's corrupting the young. And the jury of ordinary citizens, hundreds of them, regular Athenians, vote that he's guilty and that he should die. How he's gonna die is with hemlock. It's a plant and it looks a bit like wild parsley. And the way Plato described that it's killing you is very slow and clear-headed. It starts at your feet, they go cold and numb, and then it goes into your legs, and it keeps climbing until it reaches the middle of you, and then you stop breathing. I should say that people have argued a long time about how honest that description is, but in Athens you had to drink it yourself. Nobody kills you, you do it. But what makes this painting even more interesting is the fact that his friend, Crito, the one who sits at his knee, actually gave him a way out. He came to the prison and told him everything was ready. Guards, money, he had a place for him to go. Everyone would understand if he fled. But Socrates said no, because he spent 50 years telling people that they don't get to break the rules just because they're inconvenient for you personally. And if he walked out that door now, everything he'd ever said would turn into nothing. And we know today how that last day of Socrates' lives, the one you see on the painting, went hour by hour, because one of his students wrote it all down afterwards. It's a text written by Plato called Phaedo, and it reads like some kind of report of the room. So that text describes that morning, Socrates' wife, Xantippe, is there with him with their child. She starts crying and gets let out. Then Socrates starts talking all day long about the soul, about death, about why he isn't afraid of any of it. In the evening, he takes a bath, says goodbye one last time to his children, and sends the whole family home. And then the cup with hemlock comes, and Plato describes that he took it without the least fear or change of color or feature, looked the man straight in the eye and drank it. That's when the room breaks. His friend Apollodorus, who had been crying all day already, starts wailing. And Socrates, with the poison already in him, tells him off. I sent the woman out exactly so nobody would carry on like this. Then Socrates walks around until his legs get heavy and he lays down. But his last words are about debt. He said, Crito, we owe a rooster to Asclepius. Don't forget to pay it. And people are still arguing about who meant by that, but whatever it means, that's what he chose to spend his last breath on. A small thing he owed to somebody. So, if you look closer into the painting, you see that Socrates is sitting on the edge of the bed. One hand is up in the air like he's in the middle of making a point. The other hand reaches out towards the cup, but he isn't even looking at it. He's looking at the people he's talking to. And the man handing him the cup has turned his head away because he can't stand to look at it. Down at his knee is his friend Crito, the friend who tried to get him out, and the old man at the end of the bed is Plato, with a scroll and an inkwell beside him. They say that Plato actually wasn't in that room that day, he was ill, but he wrote a report about the whole day afterwards. So David, the painter, choosing to paint Plato like that, is actually telling us that we are living in a memory of Plato. If you look at the floor, there's a chain lying there that used to be around Socrates' ankles. At the back, a few people are going up the stairs. The woman turns around one last time, and she's usually read as his wife Xantippe. But look at the room and the setting and in the backgrounds. It's a grey wall, a stone floor, one arc. David has cleared out the whole space, so there's nothing to look at but the people. Which is the point, that you look at everyone falling apart except of one man who's very calm, and that's the man who is about to die. So as I told you, Socrates wasn't a Stoic, but the Stoics are really inspired by Socrates. And looking at this painting, we see three things that are an example of what the Stoics found very important. The first one is what happens to you isn't up to you, what you do with it is. For the Stoic, the only thing in this world that's really yours is your own judgment. Your money, your body, your reputation, your freedom. All of that can be taken off you at any moment. And most of it eventually will be. Socrates actually said something like this in his own trial. They can kill me, but they can't harm me. And look at what the painter David does with that. The hand in the air, the open mouth, still explaining something. The poison is actually the least interesting thing in the room to him. The second one is a Stoic doesn't fight the situation and doesn't run from it either. Look at the hand again. He isn't pushing the cup away. He isn't grabbing it either. His hand is just above it, very gentle. And that's exactly the moment Plato describes. His words are, Socrates took the cup without the least fear or change of color or feature. Not brave in a loud way, just the same man he was 10 minutes earlier. And then the third thing we see in this painting, which I think most people get wrong about Stoicism, is being in control is not the same as being cold. Although I want to be careful with this because real Stoicism is often different than what you see online. Because it isn't that the Stoics feel nothing. They had a whole list of feelings that they think that were fine to have, like joy, a kind of careful watchfulness, wanting good things for people. It's that grief wasn't on that list. They generally wanted to be rid of it. So this isn't like feel your feelings. What it is a line about what you show and what runs you. Epictetus, one of the later Stoics, put it very plain. When someone is grieving, go ahead and sympathize with them. Say the words, and if the moment calls for it, sigh along with him. Just don't sigh on the inside. And that's what's happening in the cell. Socrates sends the woman out, and he tells Apollodorus to stop wailing. Not because there's some kind of rule against crying, but because Socrates has a few clear hours left, and he'd rather spend them on thinking. Everyone in that room has feelings, but the strength of Socrates is that he's the only one who isn't being run by them. So that's exactly why this painting became so important. Not because he died, not because he died well, but because of that hand over the cup. Because everyone in the room is being dragged along about what's happening. And Socrates is sitting in the middle of it, still making his points, with his hand resting open above the thing that's about to kill him. If you liked this YouTube video, please subscribe and give it a like. Bye!